I wanted to go over a few of the changes I've made to the box and some additions I've created. First of all, I have a new digital meter to give it more of an up-to-date look. I've moved the dog switch down here, and what I've done is I've taken the phantom voltage switch to move it over to 4, and then I've put the bad leg of power in 5. I've also added a bad neutral. We could simulate this before by shutting off the neutral, but this has a resistance built into it, so you won't see a complete break, but just enough that it'll act more like a failing neutral. The other thing I've done is added a load test device. You put the meter in, and we'll do that as they get to number 5 and number 6, which is the bad leg and the bad neutral. But they're going to do it with the little single leg tester in their voltmeter, and then put it in and mess around with it. And when they get done, I want to get them thinking about the idea of buying a device that troubleshoots your meter socket and tests it before you put it in to make sure that it's good, and also to help you when you troubleshoot services and things like that. So this thing plugs in. It has a 5th terminal, a neutral. Plugs into the socket. And I'll turn the power on, and I'll turn everything on. So it's energized. You notice I have 3 voltmeters, and they're different colors for each phase. Wild leg, or red, blue, and then the green is simulates 240 volt. Now I've got a test and a normal position in this. So at this point, we don't need to get the little bulb out and the voltmeters anymore. They sell items like this online. A manufacturer make it for testing meter sockets. And I want to get people to think about doing those type of things. So in this case, we have 2 different loads we can put on it. You notice in the test mode, if I turn on the power, there's no power to the bottom of the meter socket. So this will really come in handy when you get to the point where you're trying to troubleshoot like a bad leg of power or something like that. So my thoughts are, use this when we get to number 5 and 6. So number 5 would be a bad leg of power. You notice how it jumps a little bit, and that's just part to do with the voltmeter's load, but normally that's pretty close to normal. So with the digital meter, you also get that happening. So as soon as we turn on the load, though, it just drops significantly. Now you notice I don't have to have the house service in. I don't even have to have the main off with this type of device to isolate the meter socket, because it does it internally. These are blanked out for that reason. So this is normal, and this is a bad leg of power. Now we can also put the load on. So let's do some of that. Let's put the load on. Put it in normal now, so it is no longer a test. This will bring power through the socket. So now you notice this goes, and we drop down to 3 volts. We add more load, and it drops off to nothing. 240 volt doesn't work. If I turn all this off, it's still dim. And this side's pretty close to normal still, but it's lower voltage because of the fact that we have a bad wire. So we won't get the full voltage in one leg. But when you go back like this, it looks fairly normal again. Okay, that's the bad leg of power. Now the neutral we've done before. I'll turn this one on. Now it has a switch instead of just dropping a neutral. And everything looks normal, right? I've lost my neutral. Now, I would more likely come up to when a house service is already having a problem. Like, let's say this is going on. Okay. Perfectly balanced, which is rare in a house service, we probably wouldn't see. But if you lose one leg, we've dropped up to 13 volts and 7 on 1. And we were wanting to be like at 100, 100 with all the load, it drops some. But you notice they're imbalanced. So is that a bad leg of power? I don't think so. We can drop more load, and now it's gotten even worse. So you can see we have bad leg of power, or a bad neutral. And the biggest thing you can find that is when the voltages get too high. You'll never have a voltage go too high on one leg with a bad leg of power, but you will with a bad neutral. So if load's imbalanced, Now I'm at 14 instead of 10, which where I should have been at. I still got the same full voltage here, and the 240 volt stuff works great, and it really doesn't affect it. If I drop another one here, now we're quite a bit different. Now we're losing a lot here. You can see that. And we're pretty high in the voltages there. Turn this off, it goes up to 14. Now if I turn all these off, we balance again pretty much, especially if I turn this off. But in the test mode, I can shut everything off. You don't even have to pull the main off. In the test mode, now I've got these things are fairly close to the same, but that one drops down, that one goes over voltage. Same with the other way. If I turn them both on, they're fine, because now I don't need the neutral. It's a balanced load again. So that's the idea of this device, to get them used to testing a socket without the loads, and then troubleshooting bad neutrals and bad legs of power. The other four switches still do as they did before. The only caveat to that is I put a different resistor in for the phantom load, so it shows more like 40 volts or 4 volts instead of just 10 like before. So it's more probably what you'd see in real world situations. So that's how this has changed.